Welcome, everyone, to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. Thank you for listening. We have a big show, great show for you this week. We have Mike North, who is the Vice President of Broadcast Planning at the NFL. Mike, one of the main people who helped put together the 2023 schedule that was released last week. So we get into everything with Mike about the schedule, primetime games, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Black Friday, ESPN doubleheaders, playoff game on Peacock, all that with Mike North, VP of Broadcast Planning with the NFL. Following Mike, my old friend, dear friend, former colleague, Dan Rapaport, who covers golf for Barstool Sports, will join the show to talk about the PGA Championship and all things golf, LIV Golf and Tiger. Dan used to work with me at SI, went to Golf Digest, now at Barstool, and covers golf better than anyone. So he'll be up after Mike North. And then we close it out with Traina Thoughts and my buddy Sal Licata, where we talk about the NFL schedule, the NFL putting that game on Peacock. I know a lot of people are wondering what my thoughts were on that. Get into Pat McAfee joining ESPN and a couple of other things with Sal that you guys had questions about. So it's a big show. Before we get to it, just a reminder, if you're not a subscriber to SI Media with Jimmy Traina, you must subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. And if you've missed any recent episodes, check them out. Mike Breen, the voice of the NBA, was on last week. Ian Rapoport, NFL insider from the NFL Network 2 weeks ago. Rich Eisen from the NFL Network 3 weeks ago. So check those out if you missed them. Subscribe to SI Media with Jimmy Traina and leave a review on Apple. We'll read it on an upcoming episode. All right, let's get to the big show. Mike North from the NFL on making the 2023 schedule, followed by Dan Rapaport on all things golf, followed by Traina Thoughts with Sal Licata, all right here, right now, on SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right, joining me now from the NFL, Vice President of Broadcast Planning. After the schedule release last week, figured we'd get some answers about some things. He is Mike North, first time here on the SI Media podcast, so I appreciate it. Mike, how are you?
Doing great, Jimmy. Good to talk to you.
Thanks for doing this. Obviously, the schedule release has become huge, and I thought it was interesting this year, going through it. There's so many, it seems like there's going to be so many good teams, which makes, I think, for some interesting stuff. Before we get into it, just to give my listeners some background, if they're not familiar with you in any way, shape, or form, just curious, a couple of things. How many people put the schedule together at the NFL? It's you and how many others?
Scheduling team's about 5 of us. Ani Bose, Charlotte Carey, Blake Jones, Howard Katz, Lucy Popko. We all report into Hans Schroeder, so he gets a vote. Everybody reports into Brian Rolap, so he gets a vote. And of course, the only vote that matters is the commissioner. So what is that, 8 people? It's 5 or 6 of us all day, every day, and then kind of checkpointing with Hans and Brian along the way, and then weekly meetings with the commissioner once we get down to kind of that first week in April. And hopefully by the end, we've explained to him what we're looking at, what we're contemplating, willing to see, refusing to consider. And he has certainly given us feedback on that which he thinks is important. So by the end, it should be, yep, this is about where I expected you guys would land. I'm ready to go.
And for the schedule that came out last week, when did you guys, that group, start working on it?
It's a little different than it used to be, Jimmy. In the old days, I mean, you remember going back to like Val Pinchbeck and Dennis Lewin, like the schedule would literally be built by hand. And so you would hang up the Sunday nights and the Monday nights and the doubleheader games, and then you would start building sequentially down from the top. You get to about week 6 or week 7, and the only way to finish week 7 and keep going was to go down there into week 14 and grab the Monday night game, or down into week 16 and grab the doubleheader game. So you're compromising your television schedule just to keep grinding and moving forward. We don't do it that way anymore. We build the schedule kind of inside out. All those primetime games, all those national doubleheader games, the holidays, the Europe games, all those get put in first, and they get put in hundreds of thousands of different ways. And then we solve around that subset, that seed schedule. So it's not like that one schedule we've been grinding towards for 10 weeks. It's one schedule that popped out overnight compared to the dozens or hopefully hundreds of other schedules that popped out overnight, all a little different, but all hopefully still checking all those boxes.
So for this schedule for the 2023 season, when did you start working on it? Like, do you work on it as soon as the Super Bowl's over? Do you get a little break? Are you working on it even while the last season's going on? Like, when does it start?
We know the 272 matchups as soon as the regular season ends. There's
Right.
each team's 14 of 17 opponents are rotation based, so there's 3 standings based games. So once the regular season ends, we know the 272 matchups. At that part, we'll start tinkering. Hey,
And
team, go ahead.
no, and I'm just curious because we've heard rumblings that the Bengals offered to do Black Friday. That we've heard the Jets want to do Black Friday. Is it a setup where you reach out to every team and say, what are your requests? Or do some teams you don't hear from at all? Some teams reach out to you. How does that work?
We hear from everybody. We reach out to everybody. We solicit feedback from all 32 teams, all 6 network partners, all the stadiums, all the, live nations of the world that are booking, Taylor Swift and Morgan Wallen concerts. Like, we talk to everybody starting early January. Once you know the matchups, then during the playoffs, we're reaching out to everybody. What do we need to know? What do you want us to know? What's your request? What are you volunteering for? What are you suggesting that we shouldn't even contemplate for you this year? Get that feedback from all 32 teams, all the network partners. Final piece of the puzzle is the Super Bowl champion. So you need that piece because obviously they host week 1 that Thursday nighter. After that, you kind of close and lock the door and you just start searching through this infinite space and trying to, if not make everybody happy, disappoint them all equally.
Is there a common thread or theme that teams usually have? Is there something where, obviously if the Bengals or Jets are saying we want Black Friday, that's a special circumstance. But do you hear a lot of like, don't give us too many road games in a row, or what's like the most common thread or theme from teams that they request from you guys?
The evergreen team requests, honestly, you could fill out most of these forms. They want to open at home. They want to close at home. They want a midseason bye. They don't want to go to Florida in September when it's 110 degrees. They don't want to go to Lambeau in January when it's -3. They don't want to play anybody coming off their bye week. They want all their primetime games at home. All those requests are standard, but each year does bring unique challenges. So whether they reach out to us or we reach out to them, it's, hey, look, Christmas falls on a Monday. We are going to play on Christmas Day this year. Tell us if there's an issue, whether it's with your fan base or your staffing, or, you've played on Christmas the last couple of years. You'd like to, lower your hand for that for this year. Everybody gets an opportunity to weigh in. We can't accommodate, obviously, every single ask, but, you mentioned Black Friday. This was new. We reached out to the whole league and said, would you be interested, or tell us why you wouldn't be? And a handful of clubs said thanks, but no thanks. And several raised their hand and said, absolutely, we would do it. And like you mentioned, a couple of them are kind of just tinkering with the concept of, hey, what if we did this every year? I'm not sure we're going to get there anytime soon, but it's a worthwhile discussion to have with our member clubs.
I'm sure you don't know this, but I take full responsibility for the Black Friday game. I tweeted the idea like 3 or 4 years ago. Now, in fairness, I won't take full credit because what I had said was I had tweeted this on a Friday after Thanksgiving in the morning. And I said the day after Thanksgiving, the Friday after Thanksgiving would be the perfect time for a 9 a.m. London game. Yep. You guys are doing it at 3 p.m., so I won't take full credit, but I think I was the first one to throw that out there. So I'll
give you full credit.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What I think it's one of the most brilliant ideas. I think it's the perfect day for a game, but we'll get into that a little down the road. Just a couple of overall questions here. For this year, the 2023 schedule, what was the single biggest challenge in putting it together?
The biggest challenge this year was the change in the new media deals where the visiting team no longer determines the televising network for as long as I've been doing this. AFC team on the road means it's a CBS game. NFC team on the road means it's a Fox game. You want to take it away for prime time, it's literally called a takeaway, and it's in the network TV deals. It's in ownership resolutions. It was called a takeaway. So there was a limit to the number of times you could take a certain team away or a total number of takeaways. So we always had to manage to those numbers. That concept is gone now. There's still a minimum number of appearances, but it doesn't matter whether you're the home or the road team. So there's a minimum number of appearances by team, by network, which changes every year. And so all the other games really are toss-ups. The best example I could give, I think I used this yesterday when I was talking to Adam Schefter, was, you think about a game like Cincinnati, Kansas City, that game's valuable. It's important. The fans want to watch it. It could have been Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night, could have been a Fox doubleheader, could have been a CBS doubleheader, could have been kickoff in week 1, could have been Germany in week 10. There were so many different homes for that one game. Multiply that conversation by 272, and an already, essentially infinite solution space just got even bigger. So all those years of trying to iterate and hustle with the computers and try to get schedules in front of Howard Katz every morning. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Took a little longer to get those schedules for him now because the solution space was bigger. So the computers had to work a little harder and rethink a little bit about how they searched. We had to maybe give it a little bit of a nudge, kind of guide it into different branches of the search tree or push it down different rabbit holes. So the biggest change for us was really just the timing and the cadence of being able to interact with the software. The bad news was it took longer to find schedules. The good news was those schedules were better. The computers, the software, the hardware, it took advantage of that flexibility to create more legitimate finalist, contender, plausible, legal, playable, excellent schedules, having then to hone through them all and call the candidates down and pick a winner was new for us. It was a new challenge for us.
And is there any reason why the NFL switched the way they do things, where for all these years that we've been watching the NFL on TV, it was, Fox had the NFC and CBS had the AFC, and if it was a road game for the NFC team, then Fox has it and vice versa. Why did we change it?
Look, it was still important to CBS to be the home of the AFC package, and it was important to Fox. You've heard Mike Mulvihill talk about this. It's important for them to be seen as the home of the NFC package, but because the schedule is rotation based, sometimes it just doesn't sync up right. And the two, NFC at AFC East games that belong to Fox were significantly better or significantly worse than the two AFC East at NFC East games. And instead of having to, oh man, what a bad break for David Burston and Sean McManus at CBS, we're going to have to try to solve this problem for them some other way. Take the visiting team out of it. It's just appearances, puts every game in our hand as an option, and we can really be strategic about making sure that those best games fall in the biggest windows so the fans don't miss the good ones, and we're not beholden to some decades-old policy that goes all the way back to, the blackout rule and the fact that home games didn't even used to be on television. It's a different world, and it was time to adjust.
I won't ask you which network, unless you want to tell me, which I would love, but did you hear from any network after the schedule and who was not maybe happy with what they got?
I'll be honest, nobody on schedule release day in the morning, we call all the networks. So Thursday of schedule release day, we call all the networks and we walk them through their schedule week by week, game by game. Here's what you asked for. Here's what we were able to accommodate. Here's a decision that we made that maybe you're going to be a little surprised by, but here's why we did it. And if you look down here, it culminated with this, this, and this. So we feel really good about your schedule. When we handed all the network partners their schedules on Thursday morning, across the board, everybody was pretty happy. Thursday night rolled around and they start looking at everybody else's schedules. That's when the phone rings on Friday. Same thing with the teams. When you give them their schedule, like, okay, this doesn't seem terrible. And then they see everybody else's. And then it's like, wait a minute. So Friday and over the weekend, a call or two, nothing, vehement, nothing. How could you do this to us? You completely misread our priorities, nothing like that. But hey, now that I see, where that game landed, or hey, it would have been great if I could have gotten that, those are the kind of things that come through. There was nobody, screaming bloody murder this year. It's frankly, it's been a while, all testament to Hans Schroeder, to Howard Katz, whether it's, whatever the contract says or just managing expectations. It's been a long time since a network partner has gotten their schedule and said, how could you do this to us? This is completely unacceptable. We're never signing up for this again. It's been a long time since we've had
They'll do more of a passive aggressive complaint. Like, how can
at the end of the day, this is a zero-sum game, right? Anything that's good for Amazon is bad for NBC. Anything that's good for CBS is bad for Fox. So the encouraging and the reminders, everybody has a long memory. Those conversations are ongoing. Sometimes it's with a game here or there. Sometimes it's with a flexible scheduling decision. Sometimes it's with a playoff scheduling decision. You're always trying to, like with your kids, right? You always want to take care of the one who's neediest, the one who's least happy. If we're lucky, everybody's relatively equally disappointed.
I wonder if Fox was the network that called you on that Friday, only because I say this. When I looked at the schedules, I thought CBS came away with just an unbelievable schedule. Now, that is because all the good quarterbacks are in the AFC. And even though the traditional AFC NFC split isn't like it used to be. It's still where they're going to have a minimum number of those games. So when you have the AFC with Mahomes and Burrow and Rodgers, and there's many more I'm leaving out. I looked at CBS's schedule. I was like, they have like one of the best games almost every week. It seemed like CBS should be sending you flowers. I would think.
It's funny, this notion of, the visiting team, why when we cross over into the NFC East, it was actually David Burson many, many, many years ago. I don't want to say started complaining, but started questioning why it always had to be the visiting team, because there were years where he got, Buffalo and Miami visiting Dallas, and Buffalo and Miami were down. And if only he'd gotten the Jets and New England at Dallas, it would have made a much better schedule for him. So he's been one of those guys that's always been talking about, what if we could get rid of the conference designations? What if we could have access to literally any game, even the ones where the NFC team is the road team? When he got his 425 schedule, his doubleheader schedule this year, he didn't see a single one with an NFC team as a road team. And he was a little surprised, quite honestly. That being said, they ended up, I should say, with Washington, Dallas for Thanksgiving, which is something that wouldn't have been a thing, without cross-flex or removals of the visiting team designation. So everybody's going to adjust to it. Everybody's going to learn. We probably didn't go as far this year as maybe we might in other years, but your point is valid. All those years where the NFC was always the big markets, it was always Chicago and Green Bay and San Francisco and New Orleans and Philly and Dallas. And now you kind of look and maybe the balance of power has shifted a little bit. All the good young quarterbacks in the AFC, the 425 doubleheader windows, they're still dynamite for both CBS and Fox. Maybe you look at the 1 o'clock window and you do find a good AFC quarterback almost every week for CBS. That's just the nature of the AFC right now, I think.
Since you mentioned Thanksgiving, we'll get into that now. We'll get into some specifics here. One thing I've learned in doing this over the years, and I don't know if I'm sure you'll tell me it's not exactly true, but is that there are guaranteed spots during the season, obviously the season opener, Thanksgiving, where it might not pay for the league to put, let's say, an A matchup, because those games are going to do a monster rating no matter what the matchups are. I think it sort of played out this year. You could have put so many people in the opener with the Chiefs. You went with the Lions, who I know are on an uptick, but they're not what some of the other Chiefs opponents are. Thanksgiving, Packers, Lions. The Packers obviously will be coming down without Aaron Rodgers. Washington at Dallas. Washington not a beast of the East of the NFC. So how much of that philosophy of, we're going to get a huge rating here. I mean, you did a couple of years ago, Browns and Packers on Christmas Day. Save the best matchups for Sunday 425, Monday night, Sunday night.
To the extent that we know the best matchups, you're not wrong. I mean, there are certainly NFL windows that, call it have a viewership floor, but I don't want to test that theory, right? We shouldn't put teams in there that we don't think are worthy of that national spotlight. So that's maybe why you end up with division games in some of those slots. You think about Thanksgiving, like you mentioned, it's Green Bay, Detroit, it's Washington, Dallas, it's San Fran, Seattle. Whatever the records are, you got to figure those games are going to mean something to somebody when you get there. And again, I don't think we want to test the theory, how low the floor could go, but someday I'd like to test the theory, and we're sort of inching towards it, to how high is the ceiling, right? I mean, last year, that Giants-Cowboys game, what was it, 43 million people, the most watched regular season game that we've ever had. When we put that game on the schedule 1 year ago today, you and I would be having this exact same conversation. The Giants? Why the Giants?
And even more to that point, the earlier game, which was Bills-Lions, you really would have thought would have been a Bills blowout. And they did it, one of their best numbers. Giants, like you said earlier, if you have a rivalry game, that always adds a little something. I was more impressed with almost what the Buffalo-Detroit rating ended up doing than the Giants-Cowboys, because the Cowboys are always going to bring it home.
Yeah, look, Buffalo's been on Thanksgiving, 3 of the last 4 years? Talk about playing your way into that national spotlight. That's a team that went very, very quickly from a lot of Sunday 1 o'clock games to an awful lot of non-routine weeks, Sunday nights and Monday nights and Thursday nights and Thanksgiving. They've probably done their penance in terms of road Thanksgiving games for a while. But, look, you mentioned it, that Detroit 12:30 Eastern time Thanksgiving game, almost always one of our, 2 or 3 most watched games every season, regardless of the record. So, there's clearly windows that we've been successful with, Christmas included. And, hopefully Black Friday joins that list now.
Since I gave myself credit for creating Black Friday, I will call myself out for being a horse's ass, because I have said over the years the NFL needs to get rid of the Lions on Thanksgiving. It's not cute anymore. And clearly the theory of that game's going to do a rating no matter what holds true. So I was wrong on that one, I have to say. And I've said it for many years. So that one I definitely flaked on. Usually when I have a guest, I have like one page. I don't write out questions. I have like 1 page of notes. You're one of the rare guests. I have 2 pages of notes. I have so many things. I'm just gonna throw these all out, and then whatever you could give me. And I don't even know if you're the right person for some of these, but I'm gonna bring all my.
I'll take it if I'm not.
Yeah, the ESPN, they have 4 doubleheaders. 3 of them we know about because the fourth one's in week 18 and the schedule's not set. The week 2, week 3, the game started at 7:15, 8:15, and then in week 14 they both start at 8:15. Why the staggered starts for those games?
Trying something new. I mean, last year was the first time we've had the side-by-sides on ESPN and ABC. We had the overlap. This year we shrunk the overlap a little bit. We'll try it one way in weeks 2 and 3 just to get everybody kind of used to it early in the season. When we get to week 14, everybody knows, Monday Night Football starts at 8:15 Eastern, turn on the TV, and, oh, right, we got 2 games. It's not that different than on a Sunday afternoon where you got 7 or 8 games going on at once. You can flip back and forth. I'm sure they'll do a lot of live look-ins. I imagine next year with our 3 side-by-side Monday nights, we'll try something different again. Maybe go back to like we used to do, 7 and 10 o'clock Eastern, play them back-to-back. You could have 3 hours of football with everybody watching 1 of 2 games. You could have 6 hours of football and spread it out. You could overlap them. Let's see who goes first, maybe a little east-west. We're still tinkering and working with ESPN and the research team trying to thread that needle, figure out the right way to do those.
Now, ESPN gets flexed this year. Week 14 would be a week where they can flex. Can one of those doubleheader games be flexed out this year?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny. I didn't mind the staggers to start last year because I remember, if I'm not mistaken, it was timed perfectly where the second game started right when the first game went to halftime. I'm more curious about that week. The week 14 where they're both at 8:15. I was wondering what the logic was with that.
Yeah, look, I think the idea there is to have a 3-hour block where we're maximizing all the eyeballs. Maybe some of them are on ESPN, some of them are ABC. The 2 games are different in terms of geographical interest and fan interest. So you can watch one, you can watch both, you can flip back and forth. You kind of condense it and kind of maximize the total number of eyeballs over a shorter span of time, give everybody 2 full games in that 3-hour window. The fans will tell us. I mean, if they're good games, the fans will find them and they'll let us know whether they like the overlap better or side by side or consecutive one after the other. We'll try it all and we'll see. But what you got to remember is, if we didn't have that second game on Monday night, that game would have been just one of the Sunday afternoon games.
Right.
It would have been
I like it.
15%. Yeah. I mean, why not give people a chance to sample a little bit more?
I'm a huge fan of the Monday doubleheader, and I don't care if it's staggered or 7 and 10. I love it.
I'm sure we'll try some new stuff next year too. Since you're taking credit for Black Friday, why don't you come up with a good idea for Monday night next year? We'll give it to you.
I'll think about that. Well, I'll tell you what I really want is a Friday night game. But every time I say that, I get all these tweets from people about high schools. Who cares about the high schools? I'm sorry, I'm a monster. Give me the NFL over the high schools, but that's separate. Break the laws, see what happens. I'm curious, when you guys are all scheduling the games late in the season, do you think in the back of your head, well, we can always flex this out, this can always be flexed out, or does that really not come into consideration?
Look, I think when flexible scheduling was only on Sunday nights and we didn't have the side-by-side doubleheaders on Monday, we didn't have the 9:30 a.m. London games, we didn't have, the Black Friday games, we didn't have so much pressure on the Sunday afternoon windows. I think when you had kind of one game on Sunday night and 13 games sitting there on Sunday afternoon, yeah, you could be a little bit riskier. Let's put this on Sunday night, knowing if we can't play it when we get there, there's 13 other games we could choose from. Now, I don't think that's our approach. I think if you look at this schedule, the Sunday nights, the Monday nights, the Thursday nights, we're all pretty strong down the stretch. They weren't placed there with an eye towards flex because, like we said, there's a limit. There's a limit to the number of times you can not have the Bills on CBS. There's a limit to the number of times a team can appear in prime time. So I don't think any longer we're looking at those flex weeks as, hey, this is a good time to get risky. I think it's the opposite. I think we were pretty conservative, and you can see pretty good games down the stretch on all the primetime packages. I thought
I made a note of this. I don't see it. You had said earlier, is it the Chiefs-Bengals game is late in the season, if I'm not, it's very late. Like this, is it like week 16? Okay. 17. And I know, and Eagles-Chiefs, the Super Bowl rematch, I think is like week 11. So
correct.
That's before the flex. Now, obviously, listen, you guys have a lot of people to keep happy. You've got Sunday at 4:25, which I try to tell people is still the bread and butter of the league. You've got Sunday night. You've got Monday night. Here comes Amazon. How important was it this year for you guys to give Amazon a good schedule after the rough schedule last year? Now, like you said, before the season, you don't know what's going to happen. But even before the season, we saw that Amazon schedule last year. Well, this year looks pretty good. Was it a concerted effort? Like we've got to help them out after last year, Amazon Prime?
You should check your notes. I'm not sure what you said a year ago, but I think most people said a year ago, man, that's a pretty good Amazon schedule. I think last year people were surprised by the quality of the Amazon schedule, and clearly with an intent toward changing consumer behavior and helping mom and dad find what Amazon, where you find it on their television. And you needed to do that with good games. There's no question that the, success of the streaming partners is a strategic priority for the NFL. So yeah, you could see that the schedule's better. I'm not sure you're looking at that Amazon schedule and you're saying, wow, they got, the top, 5 of the top 10 or 5 of the top 20, whatever the magic number was. But I think what you look at is once ownership approved the rule last month about having multiple teams playing multiple times, you could put a few teams on twice. Heaven only knows if, Chicago and the Jets and Pittsburgh are going to be good for Amazon, but those are obviously big brands and have national fan bases and should kind of, break up the up and downness, if you will, the echogram of the Amazon viewership track from last season and kind of, flatten it out a little bit.
Stabilize it. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
After the Cowboys, so the Cowboys, America's team, they draw no matter what. After the Cowboys, if you were to say who's America's second team in terms of ratings and draw on TV? Who would you say that? Does it change year to year based on whether they're good? Like the Cowboys, it doesn't matter if they're good; they get ratings no matter what. Is there a second?
I mean, look, the fans aren't fools. They know on a year where Dallas was 6-10 that not quite as much of a reason to tune in down the stretch. But yeah, look, when the Cowboys are good, when the Bears are good, when the 49ers are good, the Steelers, the Patriots, the schedule makers look smart. That's a little bit out of our hands. So to answer your question right now, kind of in that upper tier with Dallas is Kansas City. They have best player in the league. Yeah. The guy's won a couple rings and continues to do amazing things. And that's what our fans want to watch. So Kansas City's kind of right up there with Dallas these days. And then just below them, not even that far, but kind of right on the precipice there. You think about Philly, you think about Buffalo, you think about San Fran, some of that sustained success for a couple of years. And then obviously Aaron Rodgers moved to the Jets, takes a team out of the number one media market that was a good football team last year with good skill position players and an excellent defense. And now you put a 4-time MVP, first ballot Hall of Famer there. I think everybody's going to want to watch them, certainly at the beginning of the season. If they get out to, 6-2, I think they're going to be there down the stretch. And that's why you see a lot of Jets games on national television as well.
Right. I got a question from one of my readers last week. I did this in my mailbag column. They asked, which team are we going to see on prime time too much? And I answered that question. I said, it's the same team that's on prime time way too much every year. And it's the Raiders. The Raiders are never good. They've had 2 winning seasons out of the last, I think it's 23 or 27. And here we are where 6 games is the max for prime time and they get 5 primetime games. Why do we always get fed the Raiders when they're never good?
Well, not sure never good, but
two winning seasons out of 23 is never good.
You know what? They've got a national fan base. Maybe it's a little dormant, but when we talk about total number of primetime games, we all have to remember we've got so many more primetime games now. So maybe some of the numbers inch up a little bit, and a team you might have thought should have only been on twice was on 3 times, or a team that maybe only deserved 3 got on 4. These extra Mondays, these extra Amazons, they all come from somewhere. So to the extent that, this team or that team got 1 more or 1 less than somebody would have expected, none of us know anything. I think what we're trying to do is react to our fans. They tell us every single day what's important to them, which games they watch, which teams they follow on social media, which players they're interested in, who's on their fantasy team, who they're betting on, whose hats and jerseys they're buying. They tell us every day who they're interested in, and we're just trying to listen to them as best we can.
I think I may have written this too. Outside of the opener and maybe outside of Thanksgiving and Christmas, I think the highest rated game of the season will be Jets Cowboys because of the factor of what you said with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Cowboys are the Cowboys, and then you have those TV markets. So I was a little surprised. I didn't think it was anything bad. I was just curious that you put it week 2. I thought maybe that would be saved for a little later in the season. What was the mindset there?
Yeah, kind of get it in, strike while the iron's hot. I mean, whatever happens in week 1, Aaron Rodgers is going to be a story in week 2. Can he keep it up? Can he rebound? Are the Jets in trouble? Are the Jets the best team in the league? Having that one kind of early lets everybody continue to build not just to week 1, but, there's big games in week 2 and week 4 and week 5. And then, like you mentioned earlier, you can't put all your best games in September. Some of them have to go in December. And to the extent that, nobody's really sure about the Jets, nobody's really sure about the Cowboys, I think if there's one thing maybe we can be sure of in this league, it's that Cincinnati and Kansas City are probably going to be playing for something down the stretch. So saving a game like that for week 17 as opposed to Jets Dallas or another game like that for later in the year, it's just trying to find that balance, which ones, the fans want to see early, which ones they want to see late, which ones we think are still going to have playoff implications. Obviously, the crystal ball is never as clear as we'd like, but CBS certainly liked the idea of getting that Jets-Cowboys game in early and holding on to Cincy KC for later.
I'm sure. Like I said, CBS, they're loaded this year. There's a little bit of a weird one, and it's hardcore NFL fans get into this. When you're putting the schedule together, as Scott Hansen had a great tweet about this too, does the Red Zone. Do you guys think about the 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock split? Now, this is where I'm weird because I like when it's like 9 games at 1, 3 games at 4, because then I feel like I can relax at 4. But a lot of NFL fans get pissed and they want like 5 games at 4 o'clock. Do you guys think about this 1 4 o'clock split when you're putting the schedules together?
You mentioned the 425 window. That window is where we get more eyeballs than any other. So you're getting 25, 26, 28 million people watching at 425. They're not watching because we've got 3 or 4 or 5 games and we're just kind of spreading them around the country with, games of geographical interest. They're watching because we've got a big game there. So to put a big game there and then to put a whole bunch of games around it means more fans can't watch that big game. So to the extent that with this league is built on mass up most of the games at 1 o'clock, you watch your home team generally at 1 o'clock, then you watch the big doubleheader game at 425. Are there weeks where there's 3, 4, 5 games at 4 o'clock? Yeah. We do have a lot of teams playing out west, and some of them have gotten really good. So when you think about the Seattles and the San Frans and the Chargers and the Broncos, all those Western games have to go somewhere, and they can't obviously go to 1 o'clock Eastern. So there are weeks with more games late, but generally speaking, mass up at 1 o'clock, everybody watch the local team, and then everybody watch the big game at 425 is how it's been done for decades.
I mentioned the Raiders with the 5 primetime games. I wasn't surprised by that because it happens every year. I was a little surprised the Packers got 5 primetime games. Obviously, we've mentioned Aaron Rodgers numerous times. He's not there in Green Bay. Obviously, there's one of the most storied franchises. I think NFL fans, we love watching a game at Lambeau. There is something to the stadiums and which ones have appeal visually when you're watching. But everyone thinks the Packers are due for a pretty down year. 5 primetime games. Give me a little something on.
Yeah, again, I would tell you that their schedule is excellent. It starts with that, right? Green Bay's playing Kansas City this year. No matter who's playing quarterback for the Packers, that game's going to be on national television somewhere. Any game in, the division is going to be interesting. I guess the division's as wide open maybe as it's ever been. Detroit's better. Many think that Green Bay's worse. Who knows? We'll see. And look, the same way Aaron Rodgers' first couple games as the Jet quarterback is going to be incredibly interesting. Same with Garoppolo, same with Carr, all these new quarterbacks, some of these rookie quarterbacks. Obviously, I think that, watching the first couple of games, for any of these teams, but certainly for the Packers, let's see who Jordan Love actually is. We've only seen him, that one drive against Philadelphia last year, and sure took him down the field. So very small sample set, but the Packers seem to have a pretty good record of finding guys, keeping them on the bench for a couple of years, and then they become starters in this league and stars. So I think everybody's kind of interested, at least for the first few weeks. Let's see what happens. And, that division, all those division games down the stretch, hopefully going to mean something to everybody.
As I've said, this season is loaded, at least, here on May 17th, it looks like the season's loaded with great games. Jets, Eagles, Chiefs Eagles, Chiefs Bengals, Jets Cowboys. Was there one game more than any other where you heard from NBC and Sunday Night Football, ESPN Monday Night Football, the Fox and CBS at 425? Was there one game where they all said, I want this one?
Look, I think everybody had a slightly different approach to what they considered their biggest game of the year was, for various reasons, whether it's, marketing or perception or ad sales or whatever it was. But I think one game that everybody kind of at least talked about, certainly in early February and March, was the Super Bowl rematch, was Philly KC. It was such a good Super Bowl, kind of felt maybe a little shortchanged, like Philly couldn't have gotten the ball back. Like they should still be playing. I don't think any of us would have been disappointed if that Super Bowl, played another quarter or two. So there was a school of thought, honestly, right out of the gate that maybe we should make that the kickoff game and just pick up right where we left off. Eagles get the ball down 38-35. Let's run it back. So that game, we saw it in a lot of different homes. We saw it literally on every single television package, and whoever got it surely was going to be happy with it. And the fact that it landed on ESPN and they were able to commit to a simulcast for that one so that it's on ESPN and ABC, like you said, kind of right in the middle of the season, week 11, not too early. Let's see who these two teams are this year, not too late, so we don't wait too long, and you lose the memory of the fact that it was a Super Bowl rematch, kind of right in the middle, kind of anchoring the whole ESPN schedule. That's probably one that everybody kind of looked at. And like I said, on release day, when we called them and said, here's your schedule, they all said, oh, this is great. And then when they got their schedules and they saw everybody else's schedules that night, they're like, oh, that's where Philly KC went. That was kind of one of those games that everybody kind of had their eye on.
Well, you got to take care of Monday Night Football a little bit. I mean,
you can take care of everybody. A lot of mouths.
Let me wrap it with Black Friday. So is this every year now, or is this an experiment? It's every year.
Look, I shouldn't say that. It's up to us. I believe we'll work with Amazon and we'll talk about it and we'll figure out the right thing to do. But I'd be surprised if we only did it for 1 year. So the Bengals had said they wanted it every year, and then I think you revealed that the Jets said they wanted it every year. Is that under consideration, or do you like having it rotate every year? What are we doing past this year? That's up to ownership. My personal opinion as one of the members of the scheduling team, I like the rotation. I like the idea of spreading it around a little bit. I like the idea of kind of understanding which markets it really clicks in, which markets maybe it doesn't make the most sense. If we're going to kick at 3:00 Eastern, can we go out west? Can we play in, San Francisco or Los Angeles one day with a noon kick? I don't know what that would be like. Certainly there's other sports going on that day. I know I'm pretty sure Florida and Florida State play each other on that Friday. I mean, when I was growing up, Florida State was, had national title implications to the extent that ever becomes a big game again. Maybe a Dolphins game in that window doesn't make the most sense. So I like the idea of keeping the flexibility. There's definitely been a few teams that have raised their hand. I'm sure they see a strategic advantage to always hosting a short week game. But it's up to ownership, not up to me. I don't think we're going to lock it in on anybody. I'm sure we're going to give everybody a little taste and try a few different things before we, if ever, decide to kind of give it a permanent home.
And why 3 p.m. kickoff for that game? Why not 8 p.m.?
Well, you mentioned
the high school.
Friday, the high schools. Yeah, there's still a public law. We stay out of Friday nights and Saturdays until after the second Saturday in December, and that's why. So the afternoon is an opportunity. Again, we'll see what the retail landscape looks like. Maybe the days of everybody leaving their homes and actually going to the mall is not a thing anymore. Maybe they're all on Amazon anyway. And right before you click the add to cart, here's a click to watch Dolphins Jets. I'm sure they'll be creative about it. And yeah, kind of in the afternoon, still a short week for one of our clubs. So a second short week for the Jets, but we'll learn a lot and hopefully it'll be a really good game and our fans will tell us.
I can't wait to hear Al Michaels try to sell Amazon Echoes and all that stuff. The decision this week to put a playoff game on Peacock. Is that strictly just Peacock says we're going to pay and the NFL says, okay, we'll do it? Or is there a think tank about whether we want to put a playoff game on streaming and alienate some of our fans?
It's definitely not here's a check. Okay, we'll do it. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of discussion. You probably saw the announcement yesterday with the new sort of media distribution group at the NFL that Hans Schroeder is going to lead for us. This concept, this, consideration about the future of the NFL, the future of the fan, the future of television has been going on for a decade. So you see us toe in the water with the streaming partners. Did it a couple of times a few years ago, obviously Thursday night to Amazon, an ESPN Plus game last year, another ESPN Plus this year. This was the next logical extension. I'm not close enough to those conversations. I don't know enough about whether what's reported, with financial terms is accurate or not, but I do know for a fact that everybody was spoken with about, the opportunity to pick up another wild card game. I'm sure to a certain extent, everybody would love to have it. There's obviously, business terms that have to make sense. And I think, we're going to do a exclusive game on Peacock in week 16. So we'll get everybody kind of used to the Saturday with NBC in the afternoon, leading into Peacock at night, and then roll it back 3 weeks later for Wild Card Weekend. Nobody should be surprised by it. Oh my goodness, I didn't know.
They'll be surprised. They'll be surprised. We won't be surprised, but the casual fan will be surprised.
The casual fan might be, but that's on us then. When we have the casual fan watching that Cincinnati-Kansas City game on December 31st, 28 million of them, we need to be reminding them, oh, hey, Peacock last week, Peacock in 2 weeks also. This is the new normal for our postseason. So it's on us to make sure we get the word out so nobody is surprised.
Now that, unlike Black Friday, that right now, as of this taping, is just a one-time thing. And then you'll see how that goes.
Again, I don't know enough about the business terms. To the best of my knowledge, it's a 1-year agreement with Peacock.
Well, you've answered everything. I appreciate it. I'm just curious. This is going to be a dumb question, but I'm just sitting here thinking about this. You said you start thinking about the schedule around January when the regular season ends. Schedule now has come out in May. So from now to next January, what does Mike North do for the NFL?
Look, the business of the NFL and certainly the business of the broadcasting department doesn't stop. Everybody will catch their breath here for a couple of weeks, but we'll be in Minneapolis next week for owners' meetings. There's meetings with all the network partners as they start their seminars. There's some new talent, some new guys calling games. Always working with, our rules experts and their rules experts. That's new technology going on, whether it's, sky cams or rail cams or refs cams. And then once the season starts, our group's traveling. We're out on the road. We're at games every weekend, helping the television partners. When's the right time to take a commercial break? When's the last time a guy ran for 600 yards in a quarter? All the things that hopefully our announcers have access to where there is a resource for them. But we'll start thinking about the 2024 schedule soon enough. There's only 2 Saturdays in December next year, so that'll be a challenge. We know CFP is expanding their playoff footprint, so that'll be a challenge. It never ends.
Can I make a request since you said you? Can you tell the rules analysts they're allowed to say the refs are wrong? Just once.
When they're wrong, they're usually not shy. But
it's
the number of times that they scream and yell.
Someone could take out a gun and shoot someone on the field, and the rules analysts come out and go, like, "Yeah, I don't think it's a penalty."
I see why he called it that way. That's a good one. I like that.
There was one other thing. You were just going through everything. Oh, you said you have a hand in the broadcast partners and the broadcasters. So I might as well ask about Mr. Tom Brady. There's all this speculation. Now, I think he's going to do it. But do you have a hand in doing anything with him and Fox and getting him going there? Or what do you do with it?
If and when he decides to do it, we'll surely help where we can set up practice games for him. I don't know what his experience is like with, the telestrator and the cadence of having to speak, with a play-by-play guy sitting next to you. It's a process. It's not for everybody. Tony Romo stepped off the field and into the booth and was a revelation and everybody loved him. It's not like that for everybody. I think Troy Aikman would even tell you, right? I think he went and did Europe for a couple of years just to get some reps, just to get his feet underneath him. It's not easy. And to think that the guy's going to step in there day one and be a superstar is probably a stretch. So to the extent that the league office can help Fox as they go through training games and practice games and prep work, we will be there for him the way we would be there for anybody else.
Yeah. That's sort of the not underrated. That's not the right word. What's the word? That's sort of the, with Romo, one of the things that doesn't get talked about enough is like he started and came on like gangbusters and everyone loved him. But he also then, I think, this is just my own opinion, I think he made other networks think, oh, we can get a guy and put him in on our A team and he's going to be great. And it just, I remember growing up as a kid, and even just when someone came into the booth, no matter who they were on the C team, the D team, you didn't go right to the A team, and then Tony did. And I think, networks like to copy each other. So now with Brady, you're not going to put Tom Brady on the fourth team calling, Jaguars Texans at 1:00. Like he's Tom freaking Brady. It's not happening. So I get what Fox is doing there. I think he'll be good just because if you're the greatest quarterback of all time, you have some insight that you can share that people will be into. And I think he's got the personality. We've seen it once he got out of Bill Belichick's claws and he got to Tampa Bay. We saw personality there with Tom. So I think he'll be good.
We know him, right? We've known him all day, every day for 20 years. And if nothing else, we know the guy is maniacally competitive, and there's no way he's not going to take this incredibly seriously and work as absolutely hard as he can if he decides to do this. And I'm with you. I'm sure.
I would imagine you and the league want him to do it and want him to be good at it. Like, it's only a plus for the league, right? I mean,
we want everybody to be good at it. That's the reason that we go to these seminars and we make senior executives available to the extent that they have questions, not just about the rules, but about the practice and the helmets and the concussions and the, hitting, below the knees and all the things that go into this job. We want the announcers to be good about it because they're speaking to our fans, and whether they're 100% accurate or not, the fans believe what they hear. So let's hope that they're 100% accurate. And we try to be a resource to them and help them where we can. We want everybody to be good. And certainly to your point, the greatest quarterback of all time, I'm sure he will be good. And I'm sure there will be people that tune in to hear him.
Absolutely. Mike, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and I got a lot of information that I think is really helpful, and I'm sure my listeners enjoyed it too. So thank you very much.
Happy to do it.
Let's make this an annual thing.
Anytime, Jimmy. Good to see you.
Thanks, Mike. Take care. All right, joining me now, my old SI buddy. Now he's at Barstool. He's been on before. Tried to get him on during the Masters, scheduling issues. We couldn't do it, but with the PGA here, Dan Rapaport is with me. Hi, Dan.
Jimmy, I think you were my first podcast appearance. You used to have me on during the football season. It was called Off the Board, I think.
Yeah, that was before I did the SI Media podcast, I did Off the Board, and you came on to do picks with me.
I remember. You gave me my big break. You were that meant a lot to me. It wasn't that long ago, but it feels like a long time ago.
I had a lot of respect for your NFL picks until you called Trevor Siemian touchdown Trevor, and then I said,
I think he's still in the league, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a bunch of teams that think he's worthy of a roster spot. It's not just me.
And now Dan is a huge star at Barstool with the Foreplay podcast. I've never called you Dan. I got to get used to this.
Yeah.
D-Rap
call me
and Danny.
Daniel.
Daniel. Yeah, I mix it up.
Well, I was Daniel at Sports Illustrated. That's when I thought I was going to be a writer for 30 years. And I thought that Daniel Rapaport sounded like a writer. It does kind of sound like a writer. But then I started doing some video stuff and some podcast stuff. And Daniel Rapaport is just a mouthful. And I felt like Dan was way easier. I just felt like kind of like a douche introducing myself to people as Daniel. So I just started saying Dan, and then I was like, Dan Rapaport kind of sounds like Dan Rather. He was a legend, so let's go with it.
You should have just went with D-Rap. Or is that too unprofessional? Is that too unprofessional?
I mean, it would have worked for Barstool, like Barstool D-Rap, but I don't know. I like having my name. I think having your name is important. I think once you put like Barstool in your name or something, then you're kind of married to Barstool forever, which I'm not saying I love where I am, but I like being Dan. Dan's good.
Okay. All right. Now, before we get into some golf stuff, you did mention, you were at Sports Illustrated, you went to Golf Digest, now you're at Barstool. Is Barstool, are you as happy as you could be? You're doing everything you wanted to do? Couldn't be better? Everything's good?
Yes. It wasn't that way for the first 3 or 4 months. It's obviously a very, very different place to work. Yeah, I come from Sports Illustrated and Golf Digest, which are two of the most, buttoned up, old school legacy media operations that you could possibly be at, where there was a huge process for fact checking and there were, editors and bosses that I was reporting to. And Barstool, I basically have no guidance, which is, it's good and it's bad because it's good because you can kind of do what you want to do. It's bad because it's easy to become complacent and it's easy to just kind of coast. And for the first 3 or 4 months that I was there, I wasn't exactly sure what I should be doing. It was also right in the dead period for golf, right in the fall. So I was kind of doing a lot of the YouTube stuff that they were doing and kind of just almost drafting off what they had already done. But that wasn't why they hired me. They hired me to bring new ideas and to do new content. So now that the golf season's kind of back in full swing, and now that I've got some content of my own that we're starting to make, it sort of feels like there's the three of them that they do their thing and they've built this incredible business, and now I'm bringing something different. And that was sort of the idea. Whereas I think for the first 3 or 4 months, I kind of tried to slide in to be the fourth of four, which was not smart. But like that's how it goes. Anytime you have a new job, there's going to be an adjustment period, especially when you go to a place like Barstool that is just a sort of a singular entity in the media landscape.
What I like about a few is you getting to do a little of everything. You still write, you have the podcast, now you have your own YouTube show. Like that's what it's all about these days. You have to do a little of everything.
I think you got to do a little bit of everything. I still write. It's hard for us to monetize the writing, so it's more of a sort. I don't want to say like a brand building exercise, but it's more of like that's what I grew up. That's what I came up doing. It's still, I think, the best medium for kind of long measured takes. But the emphasis of the company, as I'm sure you know, is on short form video. That's what they feel like they can sell. That's what they feel like makes money. But I do feel like you have to offer the core readers kind of, or the core fans, what they became fans of you for. I still love writing. I don't do it nearly as much, but today I did a couple podcast interviews. I did our own podcast. Made a couple videos. It's the same kind of work as far as quote unquote serious journalism or more in depth kind of golf coverage, but it's just on new mediums, and I enjoy it.
And you also became a huge television star with Netflix's Full Swing.
Yeah, Netflix was, I feel very fortunate.
Tell people who might not be familiar. I mean, if you're a golf fan, you're familiar, but
yeah,
tell everyone what Full Swing on Netflix is.
Yeah, so it's the same producers as Drive to Survive, which is the hit Netflix show about Formula One. It's this new, I think they call it, what is the word? It's not a documentary. It's a anyways, it's this new format that you're seeing all over the place of basically unscripted, inside the ropes, behind the scenes, whatever word you want to use, of a season of a sport. There's, they have them on Amazon for soccer. I think it's called All or Nothing. They have Drive to Survive. There's Breakpoint for tennis, which was also the same production company, Box to Box. So they did one on Netflix called Full Swing, 8 episodes, following the world of golf through the 2022 season, which obviously was insanely hectic and chaotic with all of the LIV Golf stuff going on. So I feel very fortunate to be covering golf in this era where LIV has happened, because no matter what you feel about LIV, it's definitely been good for business, for the golf business. There's more eyes on it. I think the PGA Tour has gotten their act together because of it. And then for Netflix to come around and make a show about golf, about this world that I've been existing in for 5 years now, and for me to be featured in it, it's amazing. I feel very grateful, and yeah,
I heard from multiple people about how much you were on it and how good you were. So I was proud.
I sat for, I want to say 14 or 15 hours of interviews. Wow. So that's crazy. I mean, it's a grind. Like, you sit there for a 4-hour interview, and afterwards you just want to go to sleep, because it's just, you're thinking about, you try not to think about the scale of Netflix, but it was, it's funny. It was kind of overnight. So Netflix, I was getting recognized a little bit more because the Barstool stuff, a lot of it's more, on camera, and they have obviously a huge following, but Netflix just, so what happened was the show came out on a Wednesday. I remember, and I was at a golf tournament, but there were no fans. They weren't allowing fans on the golf course on Wednesday for whatever reason. The golf course starts on Thursday. Usually there's fans on Wednesday. There wasn't this time. Thursday, there were fans, but I wasn't at the tournament because my sister had just had a baby. So I went up to see the baby for the day. I get back on Friday. So the show has been out for 2 days, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. I mean, I was taking pictures, and it was, it literally happened overnight. They have 250 million, I think the number is, subscribers. And think about how many people share passwords. So the Netflix effect is very, very real. And I feel lucky, we're making season 2 right now. The show was a hit. People really liked it. It's just one of those things. You just keep it rolling and just keep it rolling.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah, I heard from people, and there were even maybe one or two people when they mentioned the show. I'm like, oh, my buddy's on there. Who's your buddy? Dan Rapaport? No way, So it was good. It was good. Since you mentioned, good.
No. That's it.
All right. We got to talk about the PGA, which is coming up. But since you mentioned LIV, let me ask you a couple of questions about that, because I'm not a big golf guy, but I know what's going on in the sports world, and it's
you don't like golf, do you?
It's not that I don't. Well, I'm just not.
You're a Tiger hater. I remember.
Well, listen. Do you want to really go there with Tiger? He's got some problems.
I'm just saying, you're a Tiger hater, no?
What I hated was I hate the media's reaction to Tiger. That's what I hate.
Okay.
I don't really have anything against Tiger. I do think he's a phony, but that's besides the point. And I watched a ton of the Masters, because this is another thing I wanted to get into with you. I think golf is a great sport for betting.
It is, because there's so many guys you can bet on, top 10, top 20 matchups.
Exactly. So for the Masters, I was betting guys in the top 10, the top 5, and it keeps you in it. And I actually think golf is a sport that can really benefit from all the legalized betting. And you got like the little window of the 4 days, like it's perfect.
Yeah, it's 4 days is nice. You can bet at the end of every day. It's almost like if they gave you a day at the end of every quarter.
Right.
So you can bet if you're, maybe you bet on a couple guys to finish in the top 10 and they all play really shitty on Thursday. Well, on Thursday night, you can bet different guys to shoot.
Right.
There's over unders for each round. There's, they're getting to a point, and the PGA Tour agrees with you. They're all in on it. So
I was going to ask you, as the top golf reporter, like, what's your vibe on, has legalized betting helped golf?
Yes. Big time. Like for all the reasons that you said, it's also, there's long shots every single week, right? So you can take a guy who's 50-1, and put a couple dollars on it. You can't do that really. You could bet on, I don't know, who's the worst NFL team? You could bet on them to win the Super Bowl, but Texans, it's just like never the Texans. It's never going to happen. Golf, there are long shots that happen multiple times every year. There's so many different types of bets, and they're getting to the point now where they're starting to roll out, like, you can bet on, is this guy going to hit the green? You can bet in the middle of a round. Okay, this guy's going to a par 3. Yeah, he's minus 160 to hit the green.
I try to stay away from live betting. It's bad for me.
Yeah, it's definitely dangerous. But yeah, golf moves really slowly, so there's time to get your bets in. It almost feels like it's tailor made for betting. And the PGA Tour, has 27 different gambling partners. They're all in on it. This
is a really stupid question. Can you bet on the LIV events, like on DraftKings and FanDuel? Oh, you can.
Yeah, you can bet on, not on the team competitions, which I actually talked about this week, because the team, they have a team aspect to the tournaments that is a really crucial part of their business plan, but no one cares about. So you cannot bet on those, but you can bet on like who's going to win the events. Yeah.
Okay. So as someone who's not a diehard golf fan, who's a casual observer, I'll watch the majors, but as someone who keeps track of what's going on in sports media, I get the impression for me, that LIV is just a complete non-factor. I know they have like the TV deal with the CW now, which is new, but like half the affiliates don't carry it. I saw your tweet over the weekend where there was a tournament and the affiliates cut away from it to show like infomercials and Penn and Teller. And I think I understand that we're in a time where everything is streaming, but if you're sports, you need to have some television presence. Doesn't sound like there's a strong. Is it strong to say they're a non-factor? Am I wrong on that? How would you assess
they're not a non-factor because they have a lot of really good players. It's a good deal for the players. I think Brooks Koepka today was on Pardon My Take on the Barstool podcast and said that it's basically like playing with your boys, except for there are fans there. So the players, they got paid way more money than they would have ever gotten paid. And it's very low stress. So they have a lot of good players who are playing there. So Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, Cameron Smith. Those are 3 of the probably 20 best players in the world, guys. 3 of the top 6 players at the Masters were LIV golfers. So they have very good players. So they're not a non-factor, but the league is not getting more popular. We talked about briefly just there. There's the success of the league is really tied to the success or failure of this team concept. The business model is basically they paid all these guys all this guaranteed money. So how are they going to get it back? The way they're going to get it back is at least on paper, is the league owns the teams right now. So they're trying to have the teams create value and then sell them to people and then use that money to make the money up. Ain't nobody's going to be buying these teams if people don't care about them. And so I don't think the league is doing well. I know they're not doing well financially. They continue to hemorrhage money. They signed up a bunch of good players because, as I said, for the players, it's a great deal. You play less, you make more money. It's chill. There's no stress. So they've taken away a lot of good talent. But I don't think that the PGA Tour is worried about LIV Golf kind of taking them over.
Right. Because when I say, I guess they're I mean, it doesn't seem like anyone cares about who's winning a LIV tournament. And if the guys are going to be paid ahead of time, and God bless them, if anyone can get paid ahead of time in their job, they would do it. So I have no issue with that. But if you're getting paid ahead of time, and like you said, Koepka said, it's like playing with your boys. It sounds to me, as a sports, just going on the sports angle of it, it's not competitive.
It's I mean, they're wearing shorts, which looks weird. There's music playing the whole time. It's competitive because, like, when you're near the lead, you want to win because that's human nature, and it's $4 million if you win it. But it's not like the PGA Tour where making the cut is a big deal, and there's guys at the bottom who are fighting for their careers. Anyone who's on LIV Golf, if they miss the cut, if they play bad, it's like, well, sure, they want to win, and you'll see guys show emotion when they do win, but it doesn't have the kind of life or death feel that a lot of the PGA Tour has. But I'll counter and ask you this. Isn't every other sport they get paid before and they still try? I mean, like Patrick Mahomes gets paid, he gets paid.
Yeah, but that's a team sport, not an individual sport. Like, Patrick Mahomes needs to win for his team.
Yeah.
If Brooks Koepka doesn't win a LIV event, who cares? Like, what's the negative? What's the downside to him not winning a tournament?
Yeah, I guess the downside would be that his next contract won't be as much. But yeah, it's very tenuous. It's very far in the future. It's going to be very interesting because they're in their second year now, and it's still very new, of course. But what they're trying to do fundamentally is turn golf into a team sport. And I am very, very skeptical that they'll be successful in that. They tried it with tennis. I mean, how many times has there been like a world team tennis thing where, we're going to make tennis into teams, and it never
Nobody
works.
Cares. They're individual sports. That's what people
individual sports.
Yeah, that's why people like them. And I think what appeals to, another reason why people like golf is because people play golf. And when people play golf, like average Joe Schmo plays golf, he's not playing in a team concept. He's playing the way Brooks Koepka and Tiger Woods and Dustin Johnson play. That's how people want it. So I think that's a factor in it.
And it's also team golf is really cool when it's once every 2 years and it's the Ryder Cup and it's the US against Europe. When it's the Crushers against the Fireballs and it's just four guys who don't really have any tie to each other and they're not playing against each other. They're just playing. At the end of the day, they add up the scores. It's just, I think the team thing is a mess.
Now, it seemed to me that when LIV first started, that those guys who went over there were basically thought of as pariahs. Is that lessened, or is that still the same?
I think it's lessened for sure. The Masters was big for that. So the Masters, everyone played. It was the first Masters since LIV Golf became a thing, and the Masters decided not to ban people, which I think was the right call. And everyone played nice, and everyone talked about how nice it was to be back together, and how, this week it's about the golf. It was new, and people had very strong feelings on both sides. I think now everybody's just kind of tired of it a little bit. And, there's a lot of questions this week in the press conferences about what's going to happen in 2 years and what do you see happening. And all the guys are like, I don't know, man. It is what it is. I think what before it got off the ground, it was what's going to happen. What are they going to be like? And now it's just a reality. And I think there's still a lot of tension because they're not getting world ranking points, and some guys are not going to be able to get into majors soon unless they do get world ranking points. But there's a lot less heat than there was a couple years this time last year. But
in a perverse way, I feel like that's what's maybe hurt even the league in terms of attention, is that we had heard so much about how, these guys leaving and this, and now I don't hear anything about LIV ever really, so I don't know. Let me ask, I'm just curious, when you're watching,
you're right. The rumor mill was part of it. The rumor mill last year of, this guy's going to go, and they're going to sign Dustin Johnson to $125 million. That kept them in the news cycle.
Yeah. When you're watching a LIV event, do you feel like there's any intensity there? Like, that's what I mean about sort of the competition. Yeah.
No, I don't. And I also feel like the broadcast is just relentlessly telling you how everyone's having the best time and how the drama is palpable. And I find it hard to watch. I watch it because it's my job, but I find it hard to watch. When someone has to tell you how great something is over and over, it's probably not that great.
Yeah. True. All right, let's talk about the PGA this weekend. John Rahm won the Masters.
Mm-hmm.
It's him and Tony
Scotty
Scheffler.
Scotty
Scheffler. Tony Scheffler's a tight end.
Yeah. Old Broncos tight end. That was a deep cut.
Lions. Yeah. Last week I was talking about who was I talking about last week? Oh, Clyde Frazier, and I said Clyde Drexler. So I'm good for like a blunder here and there. Do you expect Rahm to repeat, or will it be tough for him to repeat? Because he's playing, I know he's playing incredibly well.
He's playing incredibly well. I picked Patrick Cantlay this week, who's been a big topic of people's ire on social media for being a slow player, which he is a slow player.
Yeah. I heard Chris Russo going nuts about that. Yeah.
He takes a long time over the ball. No, Rahm has definitely emerged. So he's like the top dog in the game right now. He's a clear number one in the world. He won the Masters. He's won 4 times already this year. And I think everybody loves him. He used to be known as kind of a hothead, who that was the defining characteristic of him was how angry he got. But throughout this whole year, there have been certain guys who have been very outwardly kind of pro PGA Tour. Rory McIlroy is the first one that comes to mind, and I think people find it a little tiring and a bit sanctimonious. Rahm has never gotten into the feud. He's never held anything against anyone. He's just been a very kind of dispassionate, honest voice, and I think people really respect him. I'll say no, just because how it is with golf. He's the favorite this week. He's probably like around plus 700, so the odds are that he's not going to do it. But I would be surprised if he's not in the top 5 or the top 10, because he's playing that well right now.
All right, so give my listeners who are degenerates out there, give me like a guy you wouldn't be shocked to hear could win it, and a guy who would have like some really good odds to win it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll say Cantlay. I know he's probably 3rd or 4th favorite right now, but that would be my pick for the week. Someone who's like a little bit off the radar, who I could see winning it. Tyrrell Hatton is another guy who's an absolute nut job, and they're right. Hey, this guy is crazy on the golf course, but he's playing some of the best golf of his career right now. The advanced stats say he's playing at kind of a top 10 level. I really like the way he's played difficult golf courses this year. The question is whether he can keep his head together barely for 4 rounds. And then, my favorite bet of the week is this guy Taylor Moore to finish in the top 20. That's a deep cut for people. He's playing really, really solidly this year. He won earlier in the year in Florida at the Valspar. I like the way the course sets up for him. So I'll say Patrick Cantlay to win. I would take Tyrrell Hatton top 5. I like that. And then Taylor Moore top 20.
Love it. I'll be on DraftKings before you know it.
Beautiful.
Will Tiger ever play again?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think he's going to go out like that. I think it was very unceremonious the way that he dropped out of the Masters. It was like there was 29 holes that he was going to have to play. It was very cold. It was rainy. And so I think he just decided to pull the plug. He just had another ankle fusion. I don't exactly know really what that means. I know that he's probably going to be out for the rest of the year. I don't think he wins another tournament ever again. But I do think he'll go out not like this. I think he will want to. He deserves his flowers. I know you don't like him, but he's Tiger Woods. He's a larger than life.
Oh yeah, because he's never gotten his flowers. I mean, the media's just ignored him all these years. Give me a break.
I'm just saying that the guy.
There's been an athlete in all of sports who's gotten more flowers than Tiger Woods.
You think so? You think he's number 1?
Oh my, him or Jordan?
Yeah. No, and they're both kind of flawed people. But
the media totally decided not to pursue why he got in a car accident. What more? I mean, the guy's got the media in his bag. What more do you need?
That was the sheriff's department, I think, that decided not to pursue that.
Yes, I'm sure.
But no, I think he'll play another Masters. I think, look, the guy doesn't. All the trouble that he's gotten to in his life has been when he's not playing golf. Playing golf is what he knows how to do. That's his comfort zone. It's when he's the happiest. Even when he's screaming in pain, it's much a week out here with the guys, and he's like obsessed with the fraternity aspect of it now. He loves talking to other guys. He loves feeling like one of the boys. A week out here, even in excruciating pain, I think definitely beats a week at home. So he'll do whatever it takes. He's got nothing. I mean,
but that was rough at the Masters. That was rough.
It's been rough. It's been rough since the accident. I mean, there's guys who talk about this picture. I haven't seen it, but there are a certain number of guys on tour who have seen a picture of his leg right after the accident. And from what I understand, it's an absolute miracle that he can even swing a golf club, let alone, he made the cut in, I think, four of his 5 starts since.
It's too bad we never got to know what happened with that accident. But you used to like cover Tiger when you were at Golf Digest.
I was like my job. It was like state media.
What's your relationship with him now?
He still calls me D, which is cool. He got a nickname for me. He called me D at the Masters a few times. We're not friends.
Did he say when you went to Barstool? Did he say like good luck or like it's nothing? Okay,
no. I mean, I think he knows that I'm no longer working kind of for him. But
right.
No, there was no. Think about how many people Tiger Woods has met in his life and who have like been like kind of friends, because every single person that he's talked to since he was 15 years old is trying to buoy him up. You know what I mean? So I think he's got this look when he's walking through a massive group of people where he's just looking straight ahead and not looking at anybody, but also not looking at anything. He just has this blank stare. And when I think of him, I kind of think of him just walking through a massive group of people with a blank stare.
Let me get back to you for 1 second. So now you're at the PGA. It's in Oak Hill Country. Is it Rochester, New York? Or
Rochester, baby. Rochester.
Okay. What's like the next 4 days for you? Like, is it just... Are you doing pods during the tournament? Are you writing? Are you looking for like the special interest story? Is it just about what's going on with the leaderboard? Tell me what it's like to cover a golf major.
Yeah, well, it's changed a lot. So it used to be when I worked for Golf Digest, there were about 3 or 4 writers here, and you'd get an assignment in the morning. Hey, you're going to write about this person, or you're going to write about that person. That's not really the job anymore. So to answer your question, yes, we do recap pods every day right after the final putt drops. So I go out and I watch. I make notes, things that I want to talk about. I make videos like for our social media channels basically every single day that people watch or they don't watch. And I make notes. I do a column on Mondays called, I actually was inspired by John Wertheim because I used to edit him at Sports Illustrated, and he would do a column called 50 Parting Thoughts after every major. And I do one called 18 Parting Thoughts after every major, which I asked John for permission. He said yes.
He's the best.
So, instead of writing every day, I just feel like it gets lost, and it's, the
turnaround is so quick.
It's so quick. It's also, it's like, in what other sport do you write after the first quarter? Right. Like if I'm writing a story, this guy played well on Thursday. Well, then he goes shoots four over on Friday, and it's completely irrelevant. So it's nice. I mean, we're not in the paid view business. That's not the business that we're in. Is we sell sponsorships on videos and merchandise. So I don't need to milk the tournament for everything it's worth page views wise. I'd prefer on Monday to have one really long. It's usually 4,000, 5,000 word piece. That's basically 18 different stories in one that I've compiled throughout the week. Because I feel like that is, if I'm a reader, that's what I would want to read. Instead of reading one story that's stretched out to 700 words, I like to I'm going to sit down for 30 minutes on Monday and I'm going to digest this and recap the major that way. So that's sort of it. And I tweet throughout the whole thing, which people, laugh. Is that your job? Is that your job? Well, no, it's not my job, but it's a big part of my job and it's part of the brand. So it's all kind of one holistic thing.
Do you have a blue check mark?
I do. Yeah. I paid for it. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's a huge, like I said, it's a huge part of my job. Like I need to be able to post video. I like to look at the metrics. Call me a softie. I don't know. You didn't, I'm guessing?
No, I didn't. I wouldn't call you a softie. I mean, I don't call anyone soft. I think that's one of the dumbest insults. Like when someone calls me soft, I'm like, yeah, I am soft. Like I don't, like so I'm hugely soft. I don't.
You just don't find a benefit in it?
No, I mean, for me, there's nothing to pay for except the blue check mark. Like, I can still tweet. So what am I paying for? I understand you can post longer video. I don't post videos. So there's nothing, like, what would I be paying for? Just the blue check mark. I don't really need the blue check mark. I'm fine without it. So
yeah. I mean, I guess
there's no perks. There's no perks.
Well,
longer video.
You could. I'm not allowed to do this contractually, but you could like do subscriptions and like special content. But
who's going to subscribe to me? I mean, it's it's ridiculous.
No, you're right. I mean, I don't know. It is a better experience. One thing I do like actually is that it doesn't send the tweets right away. So I think like,
what do you mean?
It'll be like, so you'll hit send and they'll be like sending now, and they'll give you like 10 seconds to read the tweet. So you can either hit send now or undo before it sends. And you would think that, I'll just proofread the tweet, but you'd be shocked how many times you don't notice until it's like actually like shows you the tweet that's about to go live. And then you're like, okay, undo. So that's a good functionality. And look, it's $11 a month. I live in New York City. If I go buy 2 lattes, it's $11.
It's more than that. I thought it was $8 a month.
Maybe it's 8. I don't know.
It's one
but it's
latte.
not very expensive.
Yeah. Were you at the Dustin Johnson press conference today?
I was. Yeah, that was a little bit strange.
So he said he hurt his back having sex with his wife.
I mean, in so many words. Yeah, they asked.
That would seem like a good Barstool story. Do you pursue that?
Someone in the office blogged it. Yes, there was a kind of like a quick one. Yeah, I don't do much of those anymore, like the quick hitters. I'll probably talk about it in my recap at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, he's got like a 10-year-old or 12-year-old kid with her, so I think that's a little strange. But you know what? That's DJ.
Wait,
he just says what's on his mind.
Not their kid.
Yeah, they have 3 kids together.
12 and 10.
I made that up. I'm gonna look up how.
I was gonna say they haven't been together for 10 years, probably.
Let's see how old his kids are.
I know more about golf than you.
You don't know shit. Let's see his children.
There's no way they're 10 and 12.
Okay, I didn't say 10 and 12. I said 10 or 12.
Okay.
Personal life. Blah, blah, blah. 7. Let's say. They have 2 sons. How old are the sons? 2015.
So that's 8. Probably
and
7.
2017.
6.
Okay. So I was a couple years off. You're right.
So they asked him if he hurt his back picking up a kid, and he said a bigger kid, meaning
so the guy asked him, he said he tweaks his back. So the guy says, how did you tweak your back? Was it, were you lifting weights? Were you lifting a kid? And he goes, yeah, a kid, a bigger kid. So I think that's pretty much what he was saying. Yes.
All right. Well, I'm not betting him for the tournament then.
He won last week. He won the LIV event last week. See, you didn't even know that.
Yeah, but that was before his back went out.
No. I think the back was earlier in the year.
Oh, I thought the back was like last night.
No. He was saying that he was struggling a little bit earlier in the year because he tweaked something in his back. I guess doing the business with Paul.
Back injury can't be good for a golfer.
Yeah, you're telling me before we recorded that you're dealing with some serious back pain.
My back
is that why you're not coming to my wedding or what?
It's a big reason.
Jimmy's not coming to my wedding.
It's in Chicago. It's in Chicago. I don't know if I don't think I'm ever getting on an airplane ever again as long as I live.
Why? You just hate it so much?
I have some major what do you call it? Claustrophobia issues.
Do you know
I haven't been on an airplane.
How many flights I took last year?
I haven't been on an airplane since 2013.
That's insanity.
Yeah. And on top of my own anxieties, and I would need like Xanax and all that stuff. I mean, you just said you fly every week. So I would every day, all you hear about is some insane story on an airline about this person got kicked off. This person wouldn't move their seat. This person was mad because someone had a mask on. This person was mad because they didn't get a drink. Like, it sounds like if you fly, there's always anarchy no matter what's going on. It's crazy.
There's a lot of flights where they don't make the news. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
think about all the flights. Think about all the flights that don't make the news.
Right, but think about all the flights that don't make the news. But you talk to a friend or someone, and they're like, "Oh, this happened on this flight." It does seem like you've had no issues at all flying.
No, of course I've had issues flying.
Okay, so there you go.
Delays and cancellations, but like it's still better than driving from New York to California.
I like driving. New York to California is rough, but I like it. I like a good drive. Sirius XM.
Yeah, I mean, I drove to Rochester. I drove to Rochester instead of flying.
From where?
The flight would have been like from the city. It was like 5.5 hours, 6 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of you as being in LA. That's why.
Soon. This fall.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, giving my listeners some betting tips, and enjoy the PGA Championship. And I'll talk to you off the pod.
I'll see you soon, Jimmy. Much love.
All right. Be well. Thanks. Dan Rapaport from Foreplay Podcast, Barstool Sports is where you can find his writing. Thanks, Dan. All right, joining me now, as he does every week, for our Traina Thoughts segment from WFAN Radio in New York, SNY TV in New York, my buddy Sal Licata. Sal, how you doing this week?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Obviously, the number one story of the week for our purposes is the NFL putting a playoff game on Peacock. I sort of saved this for now because when the news broke on Monday of this week, I got all these tweets from people expecting me to go crazy and rant and rave because I usually rant and rave here about the streaming. So let me just say a couple of things. First of all, the amount of tweets I've seen in the past few days of people being like, this is getting out of control and it's costing so much money. Maybe start listening to me. I've been saying this for like 3 years. Welcome to reality. I was on that bandwagon from day one. Now people are all pissed off. This one doesn't piss me off as much because it's the NFL. There's a big difference between an NFL playoff game that everyone's going to watch, no matter where it is, and a meaningless regular season MLB game that I got to search 5 places to find. There's a big difference in the two things. The NFL can do whatever it wants. Put a playoff game on at 3 a.m. I'm going to watch it. Do I like it? No. Do I feel bad for people who, don't have streaming services, can't afford it? Yes. And before any asshole starts to send me a tweet, let me just say this. I have Peacock. I pay for it. I pay $10 a month for it so I can get the WWE network. So I have it. I'm going to watch it. I know how to stream it. That's not the issue. But if you don't think this is headed down the road of 2 playoff games on streaming, there's going to be a playoff game on Peacock, then there's going to be a playoff game on Paramount Plus. And guess what? You're going to have to pay. And this is what I've always said because people keep misconstruing it. If you're a sports fan who likes more than, let's say, 2 sports, you're paying and getting bludgeoned with everything you got between cable, even if you cut the cord with cable and you have YouTube TV, and then you need Peacock to watch the NFL, you need ESPN Plus to watch the NFL, you need the NFL Network to watch the NFL. That's the issue. And I don't like to watch games on streaming, but it's the NFL, so they can do what they want. I can't get all up in arms over it.
To me, it's a totally separate issue from you and I regularly complaining about finding the Yankees on a streaming device. Okay, I think the majority of people have Amazon Prime, and even if not, it's more to me about the inconvenience of having to look where they are, put the fucking different box on, switch the streaming thing. This is different. This is not about an inconvenience. This is a one isolated game, which you're going to watch anyway. This is about money. And I think it's not just about this one time. And for the record, I do not any longer subscribe to Peacock. I've come and gone with it a little bit, depending on where I'm at, as far as if I want to watch wrestling or the old school stuff or whatever. I just don't, I'm trying to trim the fat here, and it does nothing for me right now. But of course, I'm going to pay the $5 or whatever it is that it is, the basic plan to get for the game, because I'm not going to miss that game. That's not even the issue. The issue is what happens next year when it's one on Amazon, one on Peacock, one on Paramount. It's not just one service. I'd rather it be like YouTube and say, here's our service for $500, whatever it is. Watch the Sunday Ticket. Give me one spot where I could pay and get it, as opposed to 5-6 different fucking streaming things to get all the games. I hate that. And
it's not stopping here. This is like, I just had on Mike North, who does the schedule, and I asked him about it. And as of now, the official word from the NFL is the Peacock thing is a 1 year. It's just for this year as of now. And then they're going to reevaluate. Right. You know why they're going to reevaluate? Because next year they're going to see if Paramount's going to offer up more money than Peacock. Then the game will be on Paramount. That's what it's all about. It's bleeding every last dollar.
Is this the NFL selling the rights to this individual game via stream?
Yes. So because they added the extra wild card game,
right?
There's an extra game every year. Last year it was on NBC. It was on NBC, I believe.
Okay.
So this year, instead of NBC paid $110 million to have the game be on Peacock only.
Just this one game, that's it. Has nothing to do with any other deal.
There's a Week 16 game that's a Peacock game only too.
See, that's annoying. Now it's starting to borderline annoying and financial.
It's a Chargers. I'll get the game for you. I'll give you the exact details. But there's one regular season game in Week 16 that is a Peacock exclusive game.
Unless Jets or Giants are the next words out of your mouth, I'm not fucking watching it.
Chargers. Chargers.
No, thank you. Don't care how good either team is at that point. I'm not paying to watch it.
That can be a major game.
But you're paying per game, basically, right? Like, let's say Peacock. I think they have is it $9.99 the cheapest, or is it cheaper?
No, it's. I think it's $5, and then it's $10 if you want the WWE Network.
Right. So okay. So am I going to pay $5 for that one game? I'm sorry, I'm probably not. And when is it on?
No, you might, because you're gonna eventually get it a couple of weeks later it's Week 16, so you'll get it for the Bills chart Week 16.
No. What day? So it's a Sunday?
Oh, I don't know.
Is it up against is it isolation game? Or what are we looking at?
Let me see here.
Or maybe
it's a standalone game. That I know.
Right.
That I know. Let's see. Week 16, Bills Chargers. Let me see. Oh, it's going to be Christmas Eve.
Yeah,
but it will be on a Saturday afternoon.
But Christmas Eve.
I think so. I don't know. I have to.
Oh no, Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is the Sunday, so that's going to be one of the Saturday games. So they're screwing.
Right. The day before Christmas Eve, basically.
Right, which is that's a big day to like. That's a game. See, that's a day I'd rather the full slate of games. Right. You get in the Christmas mood a little bit. You get the games. I don't want to watch anything on Christmas Eve. The day before on that Saturday. That would be fun, but I'm not doing this streaming thing for one game. Yeah,
my bad for being all confused. So it's Saturday, December 23rd. So on Sunday the 24th, you have your full slate of games. Saturday the 23rd, I believe there's two games. One of them will be Bills Chargers. It's Week 16, Peacock only. So if you're going to spend the money to get Peacock for the playoff game, for the wild card game, you might as well get it starting for that game. Keep it for a month, because they'll be within a month, and then, cancel. But here's what I find pathetic about this whole thing. What I find pathetic about this entire thing is the single reason Peacock is doing this, why they paid $110 million to the NFL to air this game, is because they're hoping all these people like you sign up to watch the wild card game
and then
never remember to cancel. That's the entire business model of it.
Right.
It's
pathetic.
It's like
that too with all this stuff, whether it's the Daily News or New York Times, and I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying, like, examples that I've gone through on my own. The Athletic, like, you sign up for it for free, but they keep it going unless you take the time out of your freaking chaotic schedule to try somehow to get in contact with somebody to let them know you no longer want it. So you're exactly right. That's what they're hoping.
Right.
One more question on that. Is it, let's say it's a local game, whatever market you're in.
It'll be on locally. It'll be on locally.
Okay, so I don't have to worry about it then. Okay.
Right. If it's the Jets or the Giants, it'll be on locally.
Okay. But everybody else in the world has to stream it.
But the NFL is not going to air a Jet or Giant game on Peacock. They're going to want the rate. They're going to put that game's going to be the shit playoff game, like the Jaguars against the Titans. They're not putting
a big Saturday night. I thought it was a Saturday night prime.
I'm talking about the wild card game.
Right, but isn't that a Saturday night, like, prime wild card game? The Saturday night.
They're not going to put a good game on Peacock. They're not going to They're going to put the shit game on Peacock.
Okay,
that's what they're going to do.
But it is prime time, right? That's Saturday night.
Yeah, 8:00. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that even though it's prime time in the prime spot, because normally the shit game Texans Bengals
is 4:00.
4:00 Saturday, right? So you're saying that you think it's going to be the shit game at prime time?
Yeah. Yeah, the best games are going to be on Sunday anyway, too. So.
Right. And there's still a Monday, right? Is there still a Monday night playoff?
It's a good question. I believe so. I believe.
Right,
so.
because there's the extra. I forget. I forget at this point. I used to know the playoffs in and out. They changed the rules. They add these teams. Who the fuck knows anymore?
I had a lot of trouble keeping up with everything this year when the schedule came out because you have the Black Friday, you have the games on Christmas Day. Now, wait, when we did the pod last week, the schedule wasn't out yet, right?
Oh, no. I was going to say we talked about it, but that was when you came on my show, right?
Right. Oh, right. So you were livid that the Jets are on Black Friday. Oh, well, okay. So when I came on your radio show on WFAN last week after the schedule came out, you were complaining that you wanted the Black Friday game on at 8 o'clock, not 3 o'clock. So I just had, again, Mike North on from the NFL who makes a schedule. I asked him about that, and he said they can't put the game on at 8 o'clock because they still have those ridiculous rules about high school football on Fridays where the NFL can't compete or some nonsense.
Oh, okay.
Because I thought it was strange too that it would be 3 instead of 8. But that he gave that as a reason.
Well, what did this guy say about families? Like, does he give a shit, him or Goodell, about people with families that have stuff to do? I mean, come on. Could you have had me on? I want to just let me ask Mike North one question. Do you give a shit about us who actually have stuff to do on Black Friday at 3 o'clock?
You have to be nice to my guests. You can't be that aggressive with my guests. And I didn't ask him because, again, no one cares about families. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. The NFL got money from Amazon to add a Black Friday game, and they're going to add a Black Friday game. It has nothing to do with families. They don't care about fans or families.
Well, but they should. They
don't.
No, but it's the consumer. Eventually, like I've talked to a lot of people who are not happy with this. So it's as many people as like, oh, I don't care about it. There are many people who are like, well, I'm not watching it at 3 o'clock on a Friday.
Well, here's the thing: if nobody watches it, then maybe something will happen. But everyone's going to watch it.
Oh, we'll see. I hope nobody watches it.
But it's also
I hope they get minuscule ratings.
But this is the deal. The NFL doesn't care if people watch or not because the NFL already got their money from Amazon.
Right.
Whether one person or 10 million watch the Black Friday game, the NFL has pocketed the money from Amazon already. Now, Amazon will probably care if people will watch it or not, but the NFL doesn't care. They've got their money. They've sold the game.
Yeah, I just think they're all being pigs about it. And I feel as a fan being disrespected and taken advantage of because they assume that we are going to do whatever it is that they need us to do to watch these games. Buy a streaming service, make plans, through our weekend. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not watching football all day long on Thursday and then again Friday afternoon and then again Saturday and Sunday, whatever schedule they have lined up. I'm not ruining my Christmas for Goodell or anybody else. I'm not doing it. So I'm one of their biggest fans. I do this for a living, and I'm telling you, I'm not doing it. I guarantee you, other people feel the same way about it. I know the NFL rules everything. We all love it. I guarantee you, they are pissing fans off.
I disagree, and here's all you need to know: the last 2 years when they started it, they've gotten not good, monster ratings on Christmas Day. So that's staying. That's not going anywhere because they're getting monster. Now, who knows? Now, those games are on network. Those games are on Fox and CBS. I don't know how to gauge if people are going to watch Amazon on Black Friday. I think they will. I think that's a day a lot of people stay home. I think you have enough time in the morning to do stuff. You're home at 3 o'clock. You got the New York market in there. You've got a division rival game. I think people are going to watch it, but we'll see.
Yeah, probably. It's just such an inconvenience. And also, I don't think like the Christmas Day thing you think is going to be normal or just because it happens to fall on or around.
I think anytime
Monday.
It's not on a Tuesday or Wednesday, you're going to have Christmas Day games.
Right. So like next year where it should be a Tuesday, the following year, Wednesday, then a Thursday, obviously we're getting, we go over the years.
Well, you'll have them on a Thursday. You'll definitely have them on a Thursday. That's for sure. And I also think as long as there's a line on the game, people are going to watch it. And people with their fantasy, that's late in the season, all these fantasy football nuts, they're going to watch it.
I don't even know if fantasy fans watch the games.
Oh, that's true. They just watch Red Zone.
Yeah, right. The majority of people that I talk to about that stuff, they don't even watch the games like you and I do. You and I are old school. We watch all the games. I want all the games on the TV. They're all, Red Zone. I don't even watch the games. Red Zone.
That is true. The other big news this week, I'm not sure how much of it is on your radar, but it's on mine, is McAfee going to ESPN. And the only thing I wanted to say about this was I was surprised at how many people had the reaction of like, the show's going to change, McAfee's going to change, the show can't be the same. I get why people say that with the show going to ESPN, don't get me wrong. But if you've been paying attention, Pat McAfee is a guy who does things his way. And if ESPN gives him a hard time, I can see him just leaving because he'll get a deal anywhere else. And he's not making that deal without getting some assurances that his show doesn't have to change. I mean, he made the announcement. He said, he's got to say fuck less often because he's going to be on ESPN. And I think also, if I'm not mistaken, his entire show each day is not going to be on ESPN. I think there's a portion that's going to be just on YouTube. So if he has to change for a little bit here and there while he's on ESPN and then the show's on YouTube, but I get, most people, most men and women, they go to ESPN, they would change. He's not going to change. So I was surprised by that reaction.
I am just curious or intrigued about how he was able to get out of a very lucrative big deal with FanDuel TV, right? Like that at the time was like, wow, look at this. And he did a huge thing with it and giving the money away, some certain money. Like that was a big deal. And now all of a sudden he's out.
I had that same question when the reports first broke. My assumption is because I'm sure he had a clause in his contract that said if he can get a TV deal, then he'd be able to leave. Because with FanDuel, there was no TV deal. His show was just on YouTube.
Okay, so here's my second thing.
Yeah.
So how do you now, like you mentioned a part of it, like how are they going to break that up? Is it going to be, because part of the appeal of that show, I'm assuming, is that it's streamed, right? Like that's where.
Oh, it'll still be streamed it's going to be streamed on ESPN's YouTube channel.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. So ESPN has a YouTube channel. They're going to stream the entire show. So it's now on. They basically bought that show to stream it on their YouTube channel.
Well, no, they're going to put it on ESPN. It's going to be on ESPN.
In addition,
both.
But the base of it, right now, whose YouTube channel is it on? Is it on FanDuel or McAfee's own?
I believe it's on his own.
Right, that's what I thought too. Okay, right. Yeah. So now it's going to be on ESPN's YouTube channel, and then they're going to put a portion of it or whatever on TV. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really have much else from the sports world this week. I don't want to talk about the Aaron Judge thing because it's just ridiculous, and I didn't tweet about it because it's like you can't.
Stupid.
It's just I don't know. I'm sure you had a field day with that topic on WFAN.
Oh, my lead, remember, I'm on right after the Yankee games right now. My lead that day was, this is like, what are we doing here? This actually makes me want to contemplate what I'm doing with my career. Like, I don't even want to talk about this. It's so nonsensical. So
obviously, I'm biased because I'm a Yankee fan, so I'm not objective. So right away, if I say anything, that's what people are going to say. But I was blown away by how many people thought that if he was looking in the dugout to get a sign from a Yankee who was able to, that's not cheating.
Right.
So
somebody was tipping the pitches. The idiot pitcher was tipping the pitches. Yeah.
Right. If the pitcher's tipping the pitchers and the Yankee in the dugout picks up on that and Judge looks to get a sign, that is not cheating. So I don't know what even. So that's why I can't get into that.
I still don't even believe it. And I've talked to people who claim that they're in the know about it, like with sources that he was looking in the dugout for some sign about a tipping a pitch. I still don't even believe it. You're about to hit a pitch. You're looking in the dugout to and plus the guy's a freaking mammoth home run hitter anyway.
Right.
The best maybe that there ever's been. You think he needs to do that? Come on.
Well, as a Yankee fan, can Aaron Hicks and Isaiah kind of Fluffus steal the signs? Why is he stealing the signs? I might as well, whatever. It's just, it's so ridiculous. I got a question from someone on Twitter this week.
Okay.
Asking who would be more difficult or more of a pain in the ass to go away with on a trip, you or me? I think the answer is, I think we're both in that situation. We're both high maintenance, but I think you're a little more flexible than me.
I was going to say, I think it's you is what I was. We've been away. We've been away like short stays, whether it's Atlantic City or
Yeah,
Mohican,
I know it's me, and it's I listen. I can't have any music I'm not into in the car. Like if you're putting country music on, I'm gonna have to kill myself. I can't do that in the car. If we're in a hotel, the temperature's going on 65 degrees. Don't make it a drop warmer. Like I have certain things, and then I'm just I'm gonna do what I want. So it might not be fun to go away with.
Right. I got to get my shave in. I want to be down by the pool at this time.
You should tell the great story of when we once went to Borgata, I think. And then it was late at night and I wanted to watch like some Lakers.
Yeah. What was the show? It was
like a Lakers documentary or something.
Magic Johnson or something. There was some like special.
Yeah. I'm like, I gotta watch this. Like, I gotta watch this.
You passed out? Yeah, I look over. You completely just passed.
I didn't even make it to the start. Yeah, I'm not fun.
No, but I have issues, as you know, with like road rage and shit like
that. Yes,
That's what my stuff is. But you are very particular about your needs, especially when you're on vacation.
That is true. That is true. And then the other thing someone messaged me about was I had put on Instagram over the weekend. My dad on Saturday turned 80 years old on Saturday.
Wow, congratulations. Happy birthday.
And he's doing well. He had some health issues, but now he's all good. He's better than ever. And I had put on Instagram a photo of us Saturday when we went out to dinner for his birthday. So I say to him a week or two before, where do you want to go? We got to go, And he says he wants to go to the Outback. I'm like, listen, you're turning 80 years old.
Yeah.
We've got to step it up.
650 or something.
Yeah, we've got, I said rare 650. I said Brian and Cooper. I'm bringing up all the steakhouses. And he's like, no, I want to go. He's like, I don't love those places. It's so, for the money, it's not that great, blah, blah, blah. I want to go to the Outback. I'm like, okay. I'm like, how about this? How about instead of the Outback? And why don't we? You don't want to go to a fancy steakhouse. At least let's go to a nice restaurant. I mentioned a restaurant we like in Syosset called Cafe Testarossa. I'm like, let's go. He goes, all right, that's not bad. Okay, fine. Now, I find out from my niece who rats him out that we're all at my parents' house. My niece is taking a nap on the couch, but she was able to hear my dad having a conversation with my brother, and my dad starts bashing me. To my brother, going, I want to go to Outback, and he's making me go somewhere fancy that I don't want to go to. And my niece told me this. She goes, I heard Grandpa talking about you. I go, well, you know what? Now we're going to go to Outback because I'm thinking to myself, I'm taking my dad out for his 80th birthday. I look like a shitty son taking him to Outback.
Right.
People go,
right.
what kind of, what are you? How about, and let me just say this. I love the Outback. Love the Outback. I am a regular at the Outback. I always get a good meal there, but the guy's turning 80. Can we have something a little nicer? And he's bashing me. So I said, all right, you want to go to the Outback? I mean, I think I look like a terrible son. So I put the story on Instagram and someone's like, I hope you discuss this with Sal. So I figured I would bring it up here. I
love it.
Again, I love the Outback, but I think for your 80th birthday, you want to go somewhere nicer. But we went there and he couldn't have been happier. He's like the happiest I've seen him in years.
Ultimately, that's what matters. I'm with you 100% of the way here. I'd be thinking the same thing. Yeah. Got to go out, got to do it differently. You could do Outback on a normal Sunday night or whatever.
That's what I told him. I mean,
this is 80. Like, come on.
I'm thinking I'm going to talk to someone. Oh, how's your dad? Oh, he's great. He just turned 80. Oh, where'd you go? What'd you do for his birthday? Oh, I took him out to dinner. Where'd you take him? Outback. Really?
Right. If you would have told me that story on the pod without any setup, I wouldn't have said anything, but in my mind, I would have been like, what the fuck, dude? 80 and you taking the Outback? Come on.
That's why I wanted to clear the air here. And I am a good son. And it was tried. I tried. Yeah. So once I realized how badly he wanted to, but I'm telling you, and the next day was Mother's Day. So, I'm at a big family thing and he's telling everyone how great the Outback was.
And that's all that matters ultimately.
It worked out well. Yeah. I'm thinking to myself too. Okay, I'd like to go to Brian and Cooper. Well, I'd like to go to Ruth's Chris. Get myself
right. I get it, dude.
But I love that.
You want to enjoy it yourself. I know. We're due for one of those, by the way. I've not been to a steakhouse in a while.
I do love the Outback, but sometimes you want to elevate. That's all. All right, Sal. Good talking to you. We'll speak to you next week, and that's it. Have a good one.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Right. Thanks. All right. My thanks to Mike North, Dan Rapaport, Sal Licata. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did and you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. Very important, helpful if you subscribe. And if you missed any recent episodes, go into the archives and check them out. Mike Breen, the voice of the NBA, was on last week. Ian Rapaport, NFL Insider, 2 weeks ago. Rich Eisen from the NFL Network 3 weeks ago. So give those a listen. And again, subscribe to SI Media with Jimmy Traina. All right. That wraps it up. We'll see you next week. Stay safe and take care.